Howdys and salutations, y'all. Whoops, I'm a little quiet there. Hopefully that's maybe a little better. Howdys, y'all. And salutations as well. Now, I did actually go and stinking take a 3-hour nap yesterday, and then go to bed at a decent hour-ish. Okay, ish, but still. And I'm somehow still stinking tired, so I don't know. Maybe I'm still just sleeping off sickness, or I just gotta wait until we get to the time change, and it really screws up my sleep schedule and fix it. Which is apparently coming up soon? I don't know. In any case, we are back, and today is probably going to be more composition, but I'm hoping that by the end of today, our composition will be done. And then we can pick up on some other things, because truthfully, this is one of the challenges of this one, but also one of the exciting parts, where we actually get to make this much more of a unique art piece. It is also the part that I am, without question, going to have some of the most trouble with. Sorry, I gotta clear out all my stinky phone notifications. None of these matter, none of these matter, none of these matter. I wanna have to acknowledge a bunch of calendar updates. Sorry. It still feels like I'm playing catch up, even though I'm mostly on top of things. I'm just so tired that, like, everything feels like a chore. But I'm thinking art won't. I mean, so far it hasn't. I just have to apologize if I'm a little grousy today. Or a lot grousy, as the case may be. Hopefully not, though. Truthfully, my real sour mood is because my favorite pizza place nearby announced yesterday that they're closing tomorrow. So I went there for lunch today, but I'm still disappointed. Gonna have to... When I went today, I checked what the actual ingredients on the pizza were, at least loosely, so maybe I'll be able to mimic something similar, but I mean, I don't have a pizza oven, I don't know how they actually assembled them all, so... Like, you try looking at the ingredients on the back of a stinking can of soda and then just go and buy those at the store. A, you can't even do that. B, if you do manage to get them, good stinking luck replicating it, the ratios and everything. There's a reason that you can put all those nutrition facts in the ingredients and it still doesn't lead to instant mimics of the recipes. I'm gonna turn the fan up in here. I can tell I get grouchy and also, like, I'm the opposite of cold-blooded. If it's warm, I get lethargic. If it's colder, then I might have the energy to stick around and do some stuff. But we'll see. Hopefully I've got enough brain power to brain a little bit today. And if not, then we'll just get as far as we get, you know? That's the way of things. So first off, updates, we're making another page of composition thumbnails, because I've had some ideas. Composition thumbnails. Ooh. First off, I'm going to just actually do borders this time, instead of just sketching them out. Nothing wrong with sketching them out, just wasn't that helpful. And as much as I'm sure I could get a nice actual ratio with these, to match the canvas, I am still going to wing that part. Because truthfully, as much as it does matter for composition, it doesn't matter enough at the level we're doing this at. We're going to sort out a lot of this nonsense at the line work phase, and all that jazz. So, I do like mixing in some vertical ones. Just because it's fun experimenting with, and sometimes it really is good for what we're trying to do. Actually, you know what? Zoop! Copy. Scooch one of these over. Doesn't really matter which one. Click OK and hope that we're still on the screen. Yes, okay. Now I'm going to merge these two layers together. Gonna have the wrong one on top. Let me at least try to get the right one on top. Merge selected layers. Cool. Okay, we didn't get copy. Nice. So now we got boxes. And while I don't know that we'll actually fill all these, it will at least be handy to have. And in fact, I'm gonna just call this composition borders. Make a fresh one for composition thumbnails too. Composition thumbnails 2. In fact, let's just make a composition folder inside here, make things easier. composition. I'm still putting the borders underneath the actual illustrations. Just because I'm fine with breaking out of the borders on occasion if we need to. Obviously, we wouldn't want to do that on the canvas, but while we're ideating, which is a fun thing to say with a bit of a southern accent, by the way, ideating. In any case, whilst we're doing that, we will maybe decide that we want to expand something or adjust exactly where we're looking in the frame, and rather than copy and paste and adjust and all that jazz, we can just stink and go over the edge. Heaven forbid, you know. Are we still on our 68s? Heck yeah, we got ourselves pencil! Woo! Okay, tilt pencil it is. Decent size. Gonna try to actually do good. Now, composition idea number 1. Because I did a little more lookup on the Eclipse Shotel. Apologies for calling it a sickle the entire previous stream, by the way. It's not that. There is some visual resemblance, but they're not the same thing. Or at least it's not the name of the item in the game, so I'm going to go with what the game is actually calling it, even though it's not. You know, they've been known to be wrong before. They've called things glaives that were not, and so on. But in any case, so the Eclipse Shotel, did a little more research on it, and based on its location, got a bit more of an idea of how it was used, and it makes it, considerably more ominous, which I am actually kind of down for an ominous Miquella. There's not a lot of depictions of Miquella, and the ones that are either cutesy kitty little Miquella, which is admittedly adorable and I love, and I'd love to do like some cartoony stuff of that at some point. There's a very cute one, I forget the artist's name off the top of my head, but where Miquella and Malenia go to the fair. Anyway, or Disney World, I think, because Miquella has the ears. Anyway, not exactly the tone we're shooting for with this one. And what ominous Miquella art there is either as Saint Trina or it's post-Moog. And there's some very interesting stuff of both of those. But they're not exactly what I want to do. Because we've got Miquella of Castle Saul. A very interesting incarnation of Miquella, and I do like that they have a ton of different titles for each of these Empyreans. Very Roman polytheism, ancient world polytheism. Just interpret other groups' deities as your same deity, but like in a different focus. Romans did this all the time with Egyptian gods and others, and Greek ones too, as was very obvious. You basically, rather than saying, like, you have a different god, I'm going to stab you, they're like, oh, your god is probably just, that sounds kind of like it might have been Jupiter, but prioritizing something different. And you may notice some of these concepts survived in various different forms, even into Catholicism, with saints who were patrons of different things. I'm not saying, for the record, that Catholicism is polytheistic. I'm not. There's a whole internet and ancient history can of worms that you can open there. Heck, the Dome on the Rock has inscriptions relating to that debate. It's a very old topic of conversation that we will not be opening on this stream. Certainly not when I'm tired. But what I am saying is that sometimes some of these structures and the ways of thinking about things persisted even into different belief systems. I mean, heck, diocese, which is sort of a area of, I guess, not influence, but rule is too strong a word. What a bishop runs was based on old Roman units of area for management as well, and things like that. And also, I think Louisiana is broken up similarly. For, like, instead of counties, they have those, or something similar. It's weird. Anyway, these things persist throughout history, and it's very fun. But the Roman deities were similar, and I kind of like the idea of these Empyreans taking on different forms depending on the different periods in their life and moods, because, I mean, Sticky Malenia has so many different titles. Some complementary, some not. In fact, I'm going to look those up. I don't know that Miquella directly has them, because Miquellas are much more split off. Let's see, Malenia titles. Or monikers. Oh, good. There's even a Google embed with the way that fandom set this one up. So, Malenia the Severed, which is probably not complimentary. Blade of Miquella, Princess of Avalon, Goddess of Warfare, Scarlet Maiden, and Golden Valkyrie. All different parts of what she does. And very fascinating. Also, Princess of Avalon. What? Okay, hold on. The Demonic Paradise Wiki. What the heck is this? Is an archfey and the daughter of Oberon and Titania the rulers. Okay, this is someone's fan site where they incorporated her. But in any case, other than that one, all of those titles are genuine. How are they trying to fit this into Oberon and Titania and Lilith and... Anyway. Merlin and... I mean, they had to get Merlin going in here if you're going to bring in Avalon. In any case, other than that one, most of those fairly legit. And Miquella, on the other hand, has rather more titles. Eternal Child being the most defined one that people remember, and the Unalloyed in a later form. A bunch of other nonsense in here. In any case, potentially also Saint Trina as an alter ego. But I'm looking at specifically Miquella during their time at Castle Sol, which was not a great time. Best as, well, going off of Vati's interpretation plus what I've dug through, but mostly Vati's interpretation, if I'm being honest. Looks like Miquella, well, and also statues in the game, like even stinking, not this statue, but another one we have. We've got Miquella and Malenia hanging out with Big Bro Godwyn. Yes. Not Godfrey or Godric. How these names. Or stinking what's-his-face, the all-knowing. Gideon. In any case. Yeah, hanging out with their big brother. They seem to have a good relationship compared to some of the others. And then when he died, it looks like Miquella had a bit of a problem dealing with it. Which is understandable given the circumstances. But initially, they've got the sword that's also like a cenotaph that's supposed to mark his death, and hopefully an actual proper death, because of course no one can even die right in these games. Dying is hard. I mean, it's stinking easy to do, hard to do right in Elden Ring. It's really stinking hard to do right, given all the undead and also the ghosts that didn't die right. And the idea that maybe you need to die and be near the roots of the tree, but maybe it just absorbs you to power. And then there's the previous death rites you get through the birds. And yeah, there's a whole stinking... Not actually easy to die well in that game. In any case, I do think Godwyn may have found the worst way to do it. Although Ronnie's way is equally problematic, just saying. But yeah, Godwyn dies. Miquella, first off, works through the Golden Order, tries to stick with that, doesn't work great. Isn't able to kill off all of the undead or fight against it. So he tries a different approach. That appears to be during some... I mean, it's during the Haligtree days, but it's pre-Miquella becoming the Haligtree or embedding themselves in it. It's because we know that the people at Castle Sol know about the Haligtree, and it's stinking right above it. You can see the Haligtree from there, although admittedly not in its full glory. And it's clear that some of the Albinaurics there were interested in going to the Haligtree. However, this seems to be before the whole unalloyed, figuring out how to stop the outer deity influence and stuff like that, and really getting things in motion, or at least somewhat in parallel. In any case, this plan doesn't work, and he moves on to other things. But what this plan seems to have been is involved in some way a sacrifice of a person, maybe an Albinauric, maybe not. It's unclear. Still a person, though. I mean, plenty of the Albinaurics are perfectly lovely to chat with. Plenty of them will also shoot you from rooftops. Mixed bag, as is stinking everyone. A lot of them fell into Blood Zone and are happy to stab you with blood spikes. Moog's realm is just a whole different mess. In any case, while Miquella was there, it looks like Miquella was trying to make some sort of sacrifice to a specific outer deity of the eclipse that was a stinking no-show. But where you find the Eclipse Shotel, and the reason I'm talking about this, is because the Shotel is at the altar where the sacrifice happens, which means it was most likely wielded potentially by Miquella in order to make this happen, or potentially by stinking Niall, because everyone else in the entire fort is dead, and it's mentioned that Niall can't die despite his best efforts. So clearly something stinking went wrong. That said, despite being dead, they're some of the most dangerous enemies in the game. Actually, that's a trend. The War Dead Catacombs, also a stinking mess. Dragon Lord Placidusax, dead and long gone, still a problem. And don't even get me started on Godwyn. And whatever the heck Fia's doing. In any case, based on that, it'd be interesting to have a perspective. If we want Miquella to look imposing, I'm still trying to figure out the right way to do this kind of perspective. If we want Miquella to be imposing, then why not have Miquella over the viewer? Have it from the perspective of the person on that altar. Would give a very dramatic shot, assuming I in any way proportion or think this through correctly. Want interesting light. By the way, I did also reread Framed Ink in a little more detail for not all of the book, but a lot of sections. And I think that that will also be of some benefit. I'm going to make up that there's a window somewhere over here in the chapel. There's not, but we'll make do. This is actually like a nook with nothing in it for some reason. Probably worth questioning why there's nothing in it. The one I was standing in that one screenshot. In any case, dramatic Miquella, despite still being child. And this one might actually be more, despite being a horizontal composition, might be more useful as a vertical one. Just in terms of Miquella, I'm just super rough figuring out where stuff's going to land. Given that Miquella would be towering above the viewer. Maybe we even move Miquella in closer, because this is still looking kind of weak sauce in terms of Miquella being imposing despite everything. Should have used the other eraser. Gotta learn to be less scratchy even in my sketches if I'm vectoring. Ah! Oh, I'm on the borders too. Okay. Well, we can just undo all this. We haven't done that much. It's not like I was following rule of thirds in any meaningful way there, anywho. What I can do is I can straight up lock that one, so I won't be able to accidentally mess with it. If we really want Miquella towering over us, we could even have large Miquella here. I'm trying to figure out an obvious body shape that would be easy. The hair would be even longer than that. And we'll have to think through pose, but I'm just trying to think out shapes here, because I want Miquella to be the dominant one, and us to be in a bad way. Thinking about eye level from being on there, probably wouldn't even be able to see above waist. So let's zoom in a little bit, shall we? Hair's getting to here, shall we say. And then we've got belt here before this tunic even starts getting down. Moreover, we maybe not be at a direct view, but a sort of 3/4-y one. Just to sort of throw some stuff out here. Terrible, terrible facsimiles on all of this. Cartoony eyes. They look like the kind you see in old comic strips. The character was annoyed. Anyway, that's not really the style we're going for. Ought to actually take into face the face that they're on. think about... I'm still not actually... My brain is not interpreting this simplified body as correct. Probably because proportional-wise it's not. I'm just throwing down random nonsense here now. Okay. And there's not arms. We want to highlight the threat of the Shotel over the viewer. Trying to think of what angle would do that well. Because we don't just want like a casual offhand, like, yeah, you know, like sassy Shotel, whatever. That's not really what we're leaning into here. Perhaps an interpretation of Saint Trina would have that, although even those usually weren't particularly vicious. People like Saint Trina. Might be because of brainwash, but it's still. We could go for something more timid, but that also, despite fitting Miquella's nature a little bit, might also not be the true deal. And in any case, it sort of shoves the Shotel out of the limelight a little bit. And I'm okay for some of this limelight to be shared. I do still think that we ought to have the lighting directing towards us and towards the action per framed ink. And this really needs to be clearly looking at the viewer, which is hard because we don't have head angle. Or proper head shape. Not that pizza there is a proper head shape in any case. Man, for a thumbnail, this sure is taking a while. Ominous figures over here. A little bit of light highlight on them, but not a whole lot. We could assume a window back there or something. We could also assume a window higher up that's casting this ominous light. And having a backlit Miquella would be cool. It would be an interesting drawing challenge for the face while still forcing us to draw a face. Would be sufficiently ominous for our needs, despite Miquella's color palette generally being light. I'm overcommitted to this triangle shape. So let's just assume rough, rather than trying to think through too many details on this. Let's just darken whatever would be dark, which should include Miquella's face, especially eyes, in front of Miquella. And would give us a nice light highlight behind. We can have ominous eclipse lighting in there. It's not the best framing, though. We can think of another. And obviously that pose is still hot garbo. Let me just real quick. There we go. Halfway plausible proportions, shall we? Not the ones I'm going to actually use. I just needed to like do it once to try to get it into my head. From a 3/4 view, we've got, you know, same deal, still more reasonable proportions. Okay, let's try something more vertical, something that's going to put more focus on Miquella and the viewer. Where do we want our action line to be? Or horizon line? Because my brain is saying, for some reason, horizon line at the very bottom, and I don't think that's what we actually want. I think the challenge is that to some extent, some part of us is going to be in shot. And I don't really want to actually depict the viewer, per se. And, I mean, we're on table. How's that perspective going to work? If we're on table, and we're mostly vertical to the table, then it really ought to be pretty extreme like this, eh? Yeah. Where is our vanishing point in this? What the heck am I doing? This is... They're weird proportions. Anyway. No, because that'd be way too... High up vanishing point, intense overshadowing things. Okay, hold on. Let's actually try to brain this with the vanishing point properly. I'm going to put a vanishing point here for the piece down here. We're just going to work with it. Like I said, this is going to be a lot of working things out. We get a horizon line here. This still kind of assumes it's the vanishing point, that's our one. Not really where we'd be looking though, so we're going to end up in weird nonsense. In any case. Table. I don't think that's right. Still got our horizon line here, so this is where hide things would be going off to. This. Just getting a slight glimpse of the table we're on. Not a bad option. Slight glimpse of us, but that's still going way too vertical. It's like we're sitting up. There we go. There we go. This is feeling better. We're on this table. Or whatever you want to call it. We are here. We could maybe even see a hand in like edge. There was one on framed ink actually that it wasn't this, but it was a self-perspective shot, or from the perspective of a character rather. And while it's not going to be the same angle, in fact, it had pretty dramatic angles. Might be of help. Yeah, POV on page 53. Seriously, highly recommend Framed Ink. Great book. Phenomenal resource if you want to actually get into like composition. Because composition was one of those things that I stinking thought was just an esoteric, confusing mess. It was about as useful as when people talked about rhythms and then just explained that it's like repeating patterns. Like, yes, technically, but there's a lot of potential repeating patterns. What are you actually looking for? It helps with that a little too, by the way, but definitely with composition, where I didn't know what the heck people were talking about with blocks and leading the eye and all of that jazz. And it does a good job explaining in very simple terms not only what to do, but specifically, in fact, it's the other way. It explains why to do something and then shows you how to do it, which is great because composition was one of those where I needed to understand what is our goal before we just start blocking in shapes. They're always very clear. You start with what you're trying to do with the image, the specifics, what are the moods you're trying to portray, what are the angles, and so on. And then you get into like, okay, based on that, here's what you should start looking at for the composition. Here's things you can do, and it's well done. Simple. It looks verbose, but it's actually a pretty quick read, especially once you get past the first initial pages that are sort of concept explanations. They're useful though. They're, first, like, I don't know, 10-ish pages are pretty text heavy, but they're not bad at all. And then once you get on page 24 and on, it's really, really good. Really, really good resource. So looking at this POV one, let's see. They talk about lighting to match it. And we can even get, oh, that's a thought, an angled horizon line to show that we're at an angle and off kilter. We'll think about that for one of the horizontal ones. For now, let's hold off on that. Although I'm going to go ahead and just for this one, I'm going to mark an angled horizon line. And I'm going to put it, I was thinking, horizon line is where we are. So if we put that horizon line low, it'll make everything else look high by comparison. Let's aim for a slightly lower one, shall we? Low and off-putting. With a dramatic, I mean, that would be a very similar composition than the image. Very different, everything beyond that. Have Miquella here, if we want to keep doing this sort of lean into the right. Yeah, I don't think that's right. I'm just going to leave it at the angled horizon line for now. And we'll build off that. Okay. But let's keep working on this one first. We've got our edge. we've got what we're going to have is Miquella towering above us and in a actually centered state, even though it's a 3/4 view, will help focus the composition somewhat. Let me look at our pose ideas for half a second. I didn't put anything in the actual composition folder, did I? Zoop. Okay, poses for a second. What were good ones that weren't over the head? Because a lot of the obvious stuff for this is over the head, slam down, dramatic. This one just looks like they're sort of walking towards you holding a JoJo pose. This one would be for really off-kilter Miquella, which I don't think is what we want. This one is sort of pre-action. If we were doing multiple shots, I would consider it, but I don't think we want it for our one. I don't know that any of these are great, other than, unfortunately, this more timid Miquella holding it, which might be an apt fit. But there is something to a confident and ominous Miquella that you don't see much, but it also timid but stern Miquella. You know, there's nothing to say the Miquella wouldn't have some level of concern about this plan. Theory I'm wondering, by the way, although certainly not enough evidence to prove it, but it would be an interesting explanation for if y'all have been to Castle Sol and you've beaten the boss, you know past him there is a shade that's like trying to look over the edge of the Haligtree, but not quite there, and lamenting not that they're dead, like most of the stinking shades, but specifically that the plan failed and they're apologizing and they're sad they're never going to get to go to the Haligtree. I almost wonder if that was the dude on the altar who was actually 100% on board with this plan, which would be stinking fascinating. And one of the rare times that you've got the shade and also the obvious, like, who they were, which is why I don't know that it's a given, because usually those shades don't have a physical form anymore. Kind of sort of the deal. I mean, even the one at Castle Morn, these names. I love Castle Morn, but its name is a little on the nose. Much like the Weeping Peninsula, which is weirdly one of my favorite areas in the game. Love it. It's well balanced, it's interesting. It was literally my first area in the game. Because I saw what looked like the intentional path. I knew Dark Souls games well enough to think, that seems like a bad idea. And I did a 180, walked off a cliff, fought some bats, nearly fell in a pit. Maybe I did fall in the pit, actually. Maybe I caught it and then fell in it. I think that's what happened. I caught it the first time and then I stupidly fell in it later. And I had a nice chat with Yura and kept on going, encountered a little battle. That was excellent training and souls, or runes. And somehow, thinking my third bonfire was on the other side of the Bridge of Sacrifice, which I don't know how I did that. Beyond missing one obvious grace, I do know how I did that. I don't know how I got across the stinking bridge. I came back later as a different character that should have had better defense, and couldn't get past the dang ballista, with like 100 hours of more experience in the game. I don't know. It's a tough bridge. Okay, anyway, let's try Timid Pose Miquella. Timid Pose, but stern-faced Miquella. Okay, I actually need the pose reference again. Where was that one? It was this sort of... Okay, weight on one leg, item in the other hand. Not entirely timid, it's almost casual, which is also ominous. Like, that looks timid. Don't want that. Ah, okay. Flat on that one. Pull up on that one and it exits out. There we go. course, we'd still want to try to get this in a 3/4 view of sorts, which I'm mimicking with blocks, but that's obviously not how we'd want to actually do it. Anyway, long hair Miquella, dramatic, flowing, ominous. Oh, I'm building him on the stinking horizon line. Okay, 1 second, Miquella. Gonna lasso the heck out of that. We're gonna, rather than just straight up scooching down. Oh no, okay, good. I don't know why that's been so laggy lately. Let's start bigger and closer. I'm worried that's going to take up too much of the composition, but it's also a Miquella-focused composition, lest I forget. It's okay if Miquella takes up most of the screen. Okay, let's do a little cleanup. Ominous Miquella. I want to make sure that we're getting this at least. Even if it's wary, I want to get it more up a little bit towards the rule of thirds. Almost clutching it even, that's interesting. It's amazing how just a little bit of motion in the arms changes an awful lot. Lip Chotel has more of a curve to it. Oops, that's the hair. I'll leave that straight one. And then what we could really think about, let's think about where the light and the darkness is going to be, because I do want bright light behind Miquella. We obscure the face a little bit, I'm okay with that. I mean, there's a lot of options we could do. What I'm actually going to look at for, I mean, look, backlighting with a window where you can see the eclipse in the background would be awesome. I do want to take a quick, whoops, that's not the thing I wanted to pull up, a quick Steam pause, just to look. What the heck are these? Okay, anyway, stinking Steam ads. Always bizarre. Let's look at screenshots again one more time. There's a specific one. We're not just going to peruse through the whole stinking mess. I know we've done that several times now. But I feel like we're getting closer to an actual composition that we would like. So I need a better view of what this place looked like. And of course I didn't get a screenshot at that angle, because why would I get a screenshot at that angle? Well, in any case. Here, we'll just full screen this. It'll be jarring or jagged, but it'll work. Okay. Nice view. Exterior. If we ever want to do anything, if we end up going with that composition out on a balcony, we'll have to get some more exterior shots, which is a shame because Castle Sol is still full of death and kind of hard to get to. I mean, I can teleport to it, but getting into it is still kind of hard. At least there's 2 fewer lions. Anyway, so we've got, at a high level view, we've got side windows as an option, and we've got these high level windows that can have light shining down. They're just not going to fit in most compositions. That's the nook I was talking about. This is the nook directly behind said altar. This is the view from on the altar, which was weirdly prescient. There's literally a ghost right here, so it's probably this guy on it. Anyway, not really windows. I want to see this wall, like over there. And I didn't get that. And unfortunately, walking into that room is a slight major death trap. Because there's at least one dangerous knight that just stinking meanders in there if you're not careful. And I don't want to aggro any of the other 50 stinking dudes hanging out. I'm not opposed to going in there to get more photos. But let's do a tentative composition of this before we do that. I'm going to do a sort of loose background lighting that we've got something light behind Miquella. We'll still have this slightly above the horizon. We can make it kind of vaguely gothic, whatever. Doesn't matter yet. And that would be a lighter tone. I mean, it could still be a medium tone. It doesn't have to be crazy high contrast, although I kind of like it to be. I'm also super down with this being really dark. Although we still want Miquella to be the most dark, but the hair can still be a highlight that's surrounding Miquella too. We could have, thinking, Niall's shoulder or something. I want some of the other figures around and behind, but I want Miquella dominant. This dudes. Maybe ladies, I don't know. I'll be honest, I didn't get their pronouns. They were too busy murdering me 50 times over. Truthfully, more like 7. Castle Stall, for all its badness, if you're slow and methodical, it's not the worst. Not the best, mind, but it's not the worst. Okay. You get, like, a little bit of nice light coming out of this even, but I do kind of... I like the idea of light window, darkened figure. And we can catch the glint of this as the window's showing it, the glint of the eclipse that may be out there. Okay, hold on. Let's think through the composition of where that would be. Do we want it just top right? Do we want that more central? Centered over Miquella, even? Even partly obscured, it would still be an interesting, but most likely distracting. Do something small. I don't know. The composition does feel too open on the top right, truthfully. So we could, like, have it somewhere up here. That just feels like kind of child drawing location. We can get... hate to have a medium with Miquella in front of it, but again, I've got to remember, light hair, dark figure. We can play with that a little bit. And this could even be, like, less our body, and more we could just have, like... Once again, to sort of pull on the ideas from that framed ink, we could have a hand clutching the side. Although, if we go with the lore concept that this was... That's not the correct direction for the thumb if we're looking at this from user perspective. Anyway, beyond allowing something along self-insert, there's also the chance that this is willing. So we almost don't want to look too intimidating ourselves. Let me look back at... I already closed it. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna open it one more time. Screenshots. Looking at this one in a little higher quality, it really doesn't look like there's a window. Crud, I'd really like there to be a window just to our left here. But we can also try to get this character's outfit if we want to match fellow there. What I'm gonna do is take just a quick pause and actually open up Elden Ring. And we're gonna go on a little tour, a little bit of sightseeing, shall we? I'll be back with y'all in just... Okie dokie, y'all. Shall we? Let me make sure I load a game. Okay, good. We got Olivine. Forgot about Starfstutchins. I do apologize that we have not gone back to Starfstutchins. Unfortunately, I kind of botched several quest things in a row in about 5 minutes right after the stream ended. I triggered a bunch of events I didn't mean to, including getting to Round Table Hold. So we may have another go with a different character. Happy place. Always, I love this guy. I love this peninsula. Don't know what they mean by that. Maybe I guess, by the way, spoilers for post-game. And also for Castle Saul. It has been over a year. Just throwing that out there, but... Okay, Castle Saul main gate. This is gonna stink. Oh, why am I going to the main gate? Hold on. That's dumb. I should not fight my entire way back through Castle Saul again. That is not a smart choice. But in case you're wondering what it looks like, very loud. There's a lot of noise. There's a dude up there on that wall who's Garbo. Actually, hold on. I don't want to wander too far away lest I attract the attention of one of the 50 stinking million terrible things here. But if we want Miquella giving an announcement, it'd be hard to do better than this front gate area as well. Let's get a view of you, buddy. Grabbing a few tourist pics, don't mind me. I'm gonna go inside. Now the catch is that inside is still very full of death. This looks safe. It's not. So this is the room we want. Unfortunately, I don't know if it's that guy or someone else is going to wander in here somewhere. Dang it, only high up windows. But we can still get a look at this dude, and we can still get a look at crouched in front of it, huh? That's interesting. Not. It's actually a decent weapon. Hey. Thought you might wander in here and notice me awkwardly at some point. I'm not going out there to fight him because he's got buddies. I'm not talking to this guy while we fight. He can close ground pretty quickly, but this should at least make him speed up. There we go. That'll do it. Look at this. I'm post-game. And he still has so much health. At least I can stagger him. Sort of. Let me get behind you, dude. No. Oh, that's gonna hurt. Ah, you messed up. No backstab. He still messed up, though. For the record, this is not good play by me. I'm just trying to deal with it. That was not quality fighting. We messed up some of the furniture. Oh well. Oh, great sun, frigid son of Saul, surrender yourself to the eclipse. Grant life to these soulless bones. So this guy they were trying to bring to life or kill? I mean, presumably, and he's weirdly scorched compared to the others. That's a worthwhile note. This is... Who is this? What type of character? I mean, he's got one of the horns to alert people. It looks like kind of like... Is that a wandering noble? I think that is a wandering noble type. That's fine. Just for context, our head's even at a decent level. We can get a view of this, but we're obviously going to take creative liberties with it as needed. Yes. Okay, Castle Stall. Every route is full of misery and death. And a little bit of death to accentuate the misery. That's our grace point. This way is actually progression. But we've already beaten this area, so I'm going to leave. Probably run into something else that's going to kill me. I don't even remember going this way before. I'm getting shot at. Ow! Oh, this is not good. This is super not where I want to be. These guys probably have buddies who can probably teleport. You can play at that game. Okay, while we have a half a second, or I aggro whatever ghost is wandering somewhere around here, presumably. Hello. Take a look at our surroundings. Find any other good vantage points. This place looks like it was under a nasty siege. Well, it doesn't look like it's been under the siege. It just looks like it was ready for one, which is kind of interesting. Mostly looks weathered. By the way, that area over there, surprising amount of very rapid end, and that bird is garbage. Where could Miquella have spoken from if we want to do that? I mean, honestly, up there is not bad, although it'd be weird, and you can't actually get up there, to my knowledge. This is the direction of the nastiest fight in the castle, unless I'm mistaken. So I think I will not be doing this. There's a dude over there who can aggro and then warp to you and just wreak havoc. Wreak havoc, I suppose. Or wreck house. That's the turtle again. Interesting that I can't see the ballistae. Oh, no, you can. He's just way over there. Ah, rats. I wanted to stand on that. Ow. Boxes. Oh, well. really want to walk at the front door. We can go back to the rooftop just for one more vantage point. It's a nice spot. It is a nice spot. Ah, it's a pretty spot too. Disregard. Disregard the fire, please. Through here. Get a nice view of whatever nonsense is happening down below. Not a ton, honestly. There is a path down there to a thing. You want it, but it's not like a mandatory thing. Okay. Actually, this does answer one question I want to ask, or potentially it could answer if I go... Where am I? Oh, I need to go here and then hang a right. Okay, good. I try to have good elevator etiquette and send it back down. I don't really plan on walking back down from here. Let's just go ahead and do that. Ooh, interesting view. I realize this is a slight distraction from the art stream. We will get back to that. We gotta say hi to this individual too. Okay, it's another of the same one. No. No. Bad. Forgive me, the sun has not been swallowed. Our prayers were lacking. Your comrade remains soulless. And then you'll never... I mean... Right there, dude. Literally right there. I mean, I'll be honest. It's a lot nicer when you're down there than when you're up here. But it's right now. Why has it got to be so foggy today? Maybe it's always this foggy from up here. Just for the aesthetics. But you can totally see the yellow annex tunnel from here. Yeah, I'm confident you could. Oh. Yeah, super definitely, actually. See the whole dang place. Ordina liturgical town down there. That area with the stinking rot tree. Because of course. Over there with the big spikes, there's invasions and junk. But also the tunnel. The tree. The smaller tree. Oh, what's actually... Hold on. What am I looking at? That's not Rhea Lucaria, is it? There's no stinking way. No, it can't be. Right? That has to be something else. Dang, though. Well, cause actually, if you think generally speaking, they don't always match the map one-to-one on this far out. We are looking past Yellow Annex, and these are those giant spikes we saw. Okay, we're probably seeing this stinking arid tree, this minor one, which would make that the capital? This game. No, that can't be the capital, because the capital's by the tree. Further to the right. Doesn't look like a windmill, even though that's kind of what I'd expect to be over there. An interesting silhouette. Sure looks like a tower of Rhea Lucaria, the taller one to the left. But the positioning of it, that'd be kind of off. I'd almost expect Volcano more than Rhea Lucaria, but it doesn't look right. What on earth is that? I mean, it's definitely down from the elevator that takes you to the consecrated snowfield. Okay, let's look at landmarks, because we may not have exact one-to-one perspective. But we're looking basically along the edge of this cliff here. Which would dip us... Not that minor arid tree, though, because we can see it's past that. Okay, all signs point to it being this. Maybe it's... Yeah, because the actual arid tree would be far enough over. Maybe that is something in or near the capital. What on earth? Distance in this game that you can see is always phenomenal. Like, you can see the, I almost called it the kiln of the first flame. The giant stew pot. You can see that from spawn. Yeah, let's give ourselves a look-see. You know, they could have also called this the first step, like STEPPE, and it would have still been somewhat correct. But it's not the flattest area, I'll admit. Okay, maybe foggy right now. Nope. You get out here, you can immediately see Bestial Sanctum. You can immediately see Distant Tower. You can obviously see the Air Tree. Everyone sees the Air Tree. Church of Kale, well projected. Storm Vale. You cannot, well, actually, you can a tiny bit see the capital. Not enough to spoil anything for people, though. And, oh, heck, you can even see right in the dead center of that screen one of the ice spikes from the consecrated snowfield. Pretty sure. And then, of course, there's the kiln. The height difference is what makes me think that's one of the ice spikes. Oh boy. Pretty much the only thing you can't see from right sneaking here is Rhea Lucaria. Which is kind of funny, given that it's comparatively early. Heck, you can even see actual spawn. That's my lantern. Right out of the gate. It's all here. Everything. Tiny hint, there's more that way. I mean, it doesn't change the fact that it takes eons to get there. Oh, yeah, that happens later. See those castles over there in Caelid. Man. I guess one other thing you can't see is Castle Morn. That's why a panorama here is so amazing. Just getting here. Can we see Morn from here? No, it doesn't look like it. We can see the gates. Because that is the study tower that's just outside one of them, I think, which would make that tower that's sort of built into the cliff way off in the center distance, would make that our central gate that, where specifically is that? Yeah, it's right about here. So there's the rise we're looking at. There's that tower built into the cliffside. You follow that further, you'll get to Morn. It's really darn impressive how much they've included. World design in this is very cool. I'm not going to get in arguments about whether or not it's good or bad, but it's very cool. Yep, I'll praise that one. Always happy to appraise a good message. Oh, there's a spirit spring down there. There's a heckin' spirit spring down there? You can get to that beach from here? Maybe you have to get down there first before it'll show up. I don't know. In any case. Oh, that's my favorite place in the whole world. You can see the center of the... Wow, you can see the turtle from here? And my favorite shack is just a little bit in the past it there. We've got that tower sort of in the middle, like exact center right now. Highly recommend if you want an exciting time. Excitingly stupid time, but exciting time. Oh, and there you go, Castle Morn. All of it right out the gate, and probably the first minor air treat that a lot of people get to, unless you go to Caelid, in which case I am so sorry. Or can you get to that one early? Oh yeah, most people do probably get to this one first. Just not got the fight. It does have... It is a nice landmark to attract people into running into the seal for a well. No denying that. Man, the Grace has a really interesting interpretation of the best route through the lake here. The Aeonia Swamp. Here's a hint. Probably not this. Would not recommend. I mean, the long route's not great either. The Chair Crypt. Which, by the stinking way... Hold on. There's a bunch of Nokrani stuff hiding in Celia that I've not really clicked before, and I'm not sure why it's... I mean, they've got it well. But it's weird that it's there. And, of course, Celia Crystal Tunnel. Doesn't directly lead into it, but it super easily could. So yeah, hideaway. I don't remember anything about Fort Faroth. Oh! I should probably pay the bell-bearing hunter a visit here. Apparently it shows up in one place in on the plateau too that I didn't know about, besides the obvious castle. What's the Shaded Castle doing? And my sarcastically favorite stinking grace point, the one where resting there eventually an enemy wanders by, aggroes you, pulls you out of it, and kills you if you AFK. It's not great. I don't know if they fixed that. They may have fixed that. I hope they did. It's bad. Volcano Cave. I don't remember. I remember the point in the game where I darn near burned out was when my options were Altus Plateau and Volcano Manor, both of which were a little more tough than I was really wanting to deal with. And at about the same time, I've been sort of exploring them back and forth, inching my way across, and I ran into my least favorite type of dungeon at the time, but also, honestly, now they kind of stink. And it was those stinking heroes' graves. And I ran into this one, and I was like, I'll come back to this later. And I walked like, and then I did the outskirts here, and ran into this one, and I was like, no. And they were sort of, because I hadn't noticed entrance here, and Volcano Manor, the alternative was dealing with the ladders, which I didn't want to do. So I'd sort of run up against several things that all seemed extremely tedious, and I was like, oh no, am I even going to finish this game? I'm glad I pushed through that before I really went on my long pause and started streaming. Otherwise, I'm not sure I would have ever come back to the game. And granted, pushing through that gets you the dubious reward of Mountaintops of the Giants, which I will fully admit I didn't really explore properly, and I mostly sprinted through with Torrent. Mainly because it's a gauntlet of bosses, most of which aren't that interesting or important. I ran past a boss, I'm snuck up. I actually liked this route. This was an interesting section. Interesting enemies at the Guardian's Garrison, although tough. Fun Everjail. Bad cave. Interesting concept, terrible boss. Ruins it. And then I basically just... Well, in this case, I found this one, and then I begrudgingly went back and meandered up this whole route, which, as I recall, is like graveyard with a bunch of not boss, but boss-ish. Boss fight. NPC event. That's not a grace point on the bridge, by the way. That's below. So, get here, which is thankfully a slight solace, but still not actually a rest or a grace. Other boss fight, Castle Saul. It's horrible. This whole route is horrible. And I mean, thinking none of this stuff is worth fighting. I mean, if you want specific items, or you want experience, or you want to really get the feel of the area, sure. Also, this ravine is full of things that were formerly bosses, but now aren't. I hate it. I don't like that area. I like this stretch. I'll openly admit I like this little patch up here. And I actually don't hate the lower section here. It's interesting. Not a fan of this section, but I also truthfully didn't explore it much, because it was one of the most tedious and one of the most frustrating enemies to fight. One each, not the same one. And locked in a constant brawl against each other, and I didn't want to aggro stinking any of them. Also... Okay, this was a nice find. Where is... Ah, yes. Hero's Grave. Not thrilled about finding that either. Really, in fact, thoroughly not thrilled about finding that. Was so frustrated when that was what was the end of that route. I was like, ah. I do like the two possible entrances to the boss arena here. I sort of flip-flopped between which one I used depending on how I wanted to aggro and angles and stuff, and it made that boss very interesting. I like this boss fight. I actually genuinely do. And then this is cool. And then it gets into... Well, technically it takes you right to Far Missoula, but I went and did pretty much every stinking other thing before I did that, including consecrated snowfields, Halig Tree, clearing out a lot of loose ends in the south, NPC quests, a bunch of stuff. Capital, more of the capital. And I'm glad I did, because Farm Azula was my least favorite part of the entire game. And if I had to go Mountaintops of the Giants to Farm Azula, I don't know. I don't know. It's... Well, it's like I've talked about it a lot. Halig Tree, despite being almost certainly harder and almost certainly meaner spirited, honestly, I found more fun because this one rewards very, very cautious, methodical play and cleverly finding shortcuts by exploring to make the most of your terrain. This one rewards sprinting past stinking everything. It's not as bad as the Ringed City, but there's not, because it loops back on itself so much, it's very hard to have a sense of progress. Enemy damage is strong enough that actually fighting all of them is disadvantageous, because it leaves you way too weak for the boss. Well, at the very least in the lead up to a certain quote-unquote duo fight. Mostly I found it frustrating. I felt like I was missing half the area because it doubles back on itself so much that I didn't realize I would be coming back. Now that I know it a little better now, I might hate it less. But also, a ton of respawning skeleton enemies that are super accurate lore-wise and very neat and very cool, and just have way too much health for that kind of enemy. IMO. Did not have an issue with the Draconic Tree Sentinel, weirdly. Really expected to, with all the people hyped up about it. And given that the one I fought way back when I summoned 2 NPCs for, just because I was like, hey, they're here, and I don't want to fight this. No, it's funny recapping these games, because you realize how much of it was actually frustrating and not fun, and yet it's still a positive memory experience. It's like... It's interesting. That said, I guess there's some PvP hotspots. I always forget how I trigger that. And also... left button. Interesting. Guess everything's still pretty active. The tunnels are mostly friendly help. Would seem. Which is funny given the number of times that we got invaded along here. But I suppose it changes time to time. Never did do this quest, and I'm not gonna because I like this fun. And also, Volcano Manor's kind of busy right now. What with Rykard being dead. Just throw a minor wrench in plans. Okay, that's probably enough recapping and remembering. Honestly, it is still a very fun game despite the frustrating zones. And land area does not equate to time spent, because I spent a ton of time in Limgrave. And honestly, Limgrave is well enough designed, it could have been a game all its own, especially when you add this section. Caelid would have been the final area. People would have probably been satisfied if the game ended after Caelid and Liurnia. I'm glad it didn't. I'm glad it went on. As frustrating as some of these areas were, there were also others that were lovely. I love the Upper Road, the Windmill Villages. Both fascinating lore, a fun little like mini area that's got its own vibe, and a considerably nicer route. The caravan down here is a wonderful challenge, even though these ruins used to have the bugged blood dogs. They're fixed now, so it's not so bad. I actually like the Shaded Castle Gauntlet, even though it is stinking difficult and weirdly confusing. Actually, even this route is interesting. It's not bad. Like, it's stinking tough, but it's not the worst. And it's intriguing, I'll say. Interesting lore and environmental storytelling. But into Volcano Manor was kind of meh. Cool boss fight. At the manor itself, also really cool. But the city itself kind of, I like the rooftop section. I'll be honest, I had to go back and explore this whole part later, because after I got past this boss, I was afraid it was going to follow me, and I literally sprinted on Torrent all the way to the manor without engaging any other enemies. I was like, nope. I'm not sure I even got this grace on my first go. I may have, but I was like, no. We're getting out of here. And I actually, you know what? The gauntlet around Volcano Manor, like not in the manor itself, but like the alleyway, not the alleys, the valleys, not alleys. There's a certain similarity. Really fun encounters and interesting stuff all the way through it. I had a grand time there. So yeah, for every section that I was like, oh, this is frustrating, there was another section that was like, ooh, this is fun. And then let's not even get started on the underground areas. They're gorgeous and full of murder. Siofra is wonderful, but I feel like a lot of people probably drink in the beauty and then give up after the archers and then come back later. Oh boy, it's not even the upper section. The upper section is our gauntlet of its own make, and I always forget how close this stuff is. Hollowhorn Grounds, Hollowhorn Grounds. Both right there. Maybe they're cousins or something. Anyway, I will say, I didn't even find this grace on my first run. Like, full stop, no idea this was there until I was looking for a guide because I was like, where on earth is that thing that Ronnie was talking about? And they were like, oh yeah, just go to this grace in the Ancestral Woods. And I was like, what grace? And they're like, then jump off a cliff. And I was like, okay. I've read try jumping 100 times. I'm not blindly trusting that. But it was actually the answer this time. And Night Sacred Ground is also honestly, as far as the Eternal Cities go, I think Night Sacred Ground may have actually been my favorite little gauntlet of them. I enjoyed it more than the Aqueduct. Definitely. And I think I enjoyed it more than Noxtella. Certainly more than the Ool Palace ruins. That said, past Noxtella, I actually didn't hate the Lake of Rot. I guess I never fought this guy. Yeah, whatever. I like the sort of epic view of the Grand Cloister, and I can remember. It's funny. I left a lot of anime on in the background while I was playing this, and I can sort of remember areas by what I was watching, because I know that I did Rot Lake, or Lake of Rot, and the Grand Cloister, and Estelle, and on up to the Moonlight Altar area while watching Hunter x Hunter, specifically the early training while they were doing the marathon run. Because they emerged to the surface, I want to say, around the same time that I did. And I was like, and it was kind of a fun parallel. I can't pick out others off the top of my head. But looking at areas, sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, this reminds me of X. I'm like, oh, that's because I did them at the same time. Others not so much. I had a strong association between one show and Farm Azula, but I don't remember what it is now. Oh, right, because the show itself was kind of boring. Okay, well, no matter. And it was only for the second half. The first half... It's funny, the first half of Farm Azula goes so much faster. Crumbling Beast Grave, sprint right on across, we're here. This section has a lot going on. I didn't even bother going down, because it had the worm faces. It got to Tempest facing balcony, and then it slows down considerably for this section. Dragon Temple really slows down. And all the stuff around here. Mainly, this became a DPS wall where I couldn't beat the first night, and so I left and came back a long time later. Long time later. The entirety of the Halig Tree later. Dragon Temple Altar dealt with the boss. Dragon Temple Lift, and then this was where it really got just thinking double backsy, no clue where anything is. You end up over here somehow. There's the whole stuff over here that doesn't have a grace anywhere near it, and it's way too long of a run. There's a Crucible Knight buried in there somewhere. Still don't know what's past it. Doesn't matter to me that much at this point. And then we got beside the Great Bridge, and I was like, okay, we're finally getting towards the end. But like this section of Farm Azula with like the cliff sides and stuff, ugh. Was not fun. Dragon Lord Placidus Axe, very fun, I will say. Worth the other nonsense, maybe. Malekith, I feel bad. Malekith has a gorgeous arena, and I assume is a wonderfully fascinating fight. However, wait, where am I? Well, that's dramatic. Oh, and I'm getting the buff from it. I do seem to get this a lot more now that it's ash. Or maybe I'm getting the golden leaves and the ash. Kind of a beautiful sight. Ominous in its own right, especially with my lantern on me. And you have to wonder, I'm trying to remember on the lore if it was from Farm Azula or from a sister city that all this sinking sky junk came from. Because there's a lot of sky junk. Let's see, no. Farm Azula's more somewhere over there. I guess it would be over this way. Oh, right, there's a lot of actual stuff. But yeah, and it's way out there. I'm disappointed. I was actually quite excited about Farm Azula, and it was not quite my jam. But other areas like the Halig Tree that I'd heard so much horrible about, because people want to... Well, okay, I won't deny. It's hard. It doesn't always play nice. I'm not trying to trivialize people's challenges with an area, because everyone's experience and playstyle is different. That said, it was not... Maybe because I was so braced for it, it wasn't actually that bad. It was tough, don't get me wrong. I've not had as much challenge getting through an area from grace to grace as I had getting between the Farm Azula... not the Farm Azula, the Halig Tree, Elfile Brace of the Halig Tree from the, prayer room balcony over. It's gorgeous, though, and I couldn't be mad about being stuck there, because I loved being there. Oh, yeah. What was the actual gauntlet? It was pretty far. Yeah, I think it was... Yeah, from the prayer room to the inner wall is maybe the hardest gauntlet in the game. Certainly feels like the longest one. But, I mean, it's gorgeous. I can't hate it. And it was late game, and I was well equipped to deal with whatever it threw at me. Oh, my friend's not there anymore. That makes me sad. I don't want to step out here because people will walk up and shoot me. And I don't want to step out there because the dude chilling by the door will stab me. Okay, I'm going to go fight him. He's going to kill me probably, and it's going to be very embarrassing and awkward. I'm going to stab you first at least once. I'll take my cheap shot. Okay. Oh, don't you get buffed from stabbing me. Probably shouldn't have stayed still long enough for me to do that. Get frosted. Okay. I'm not going to pretend that was the most graceful fight either. Sorry, dude. You probably deserve better. Just the armor settling. I thought it got back up. I was like, that can't be. It can't be. They had a Scarlet Rot. See, oh, that's actually sad and clever. Bouncing through the floor, mate. Help me. Fine, yeah. Good luck, buddy. First off, right. Oh. Is that viable? Well, howdy do. Even more shortcuts. Although, I'd like my other route better, actually, because dealing with these guys is kind of a pain compared to... I can deal with that gauntlet on the staircase and then drop down onto that roof. Saves me fighting with these three. That's fine. Might not have been a bad vantage to deal with the boss that was chilling over on that platform, but I did it from inside of that room and it was a little better, I think. Wasn't great, mind you. It was a stinking cheesy Garbo boss. And then down there was, you know, they actually let me spirit summon, so it wasn't bad. It was not good, but it wasn't as bad as it could have been. Boop. The enemies here are kind of tough. I reckon the others are going to notice if I do this. Or maybe not. Surprised their shield doesn't have more magic resist. And also, look at thinking how many runes you get from that. Well, I guess I got a ton from the other guy at the door, too. Still, I'm up like 4,000 from fighting 2 enemies. That's a nice route. Hi, mate. You aggroed a wee bit fast. I'm getting a cheap backstab off you. No, no, don't explodey at me. What is in here? Whatever was in here, I got it already. You just gonna sit there, buddy? Oh, incantation. Oh, was it the triple rings? We chill? We chill. Pretty armor. Funny that it's the same shield throughout the entire stinking game. Everybody uses that one. I mean, even look, I can't criticize. I use it too. Oops. Good shield. Whose sneaking emblem is that? That looks like a serpent. Why would everyone use a serpent shield, though? Weird. Yeah, genuine question, actually. What is the deal with these shields? Is it to ward off the serpent? I guess I don't know if Rykard's folks use it, because Rykard's folks are all lizards. Very, very cool lizards. I have no objections to them, but they kind of do their own thing when it comes to equipment. Apparently stinking everyone left Rykard otherwise. Hang in there. Miquella will be back any day now. Probably. Maybe. Okay, I'll be honest, I know where he is. He's not going to be back soon. Gonna be a hot minute. Malenia's, I'm gonna say taking a nap downstairs. Did he notice me? Oh, look at that morning sunlight. That's right, catch the dawn. Catch some dawn rays. Oh, don't give me ashen petals even over here. Come on, Air Tree. I'm a long way away, I don't need them. I don't need a reminder of what a mess the world is. I suppose it's not as intrusive as Dark Souls 3's endgame. That, that would really mess with any photographs that you were wanting to take. Okay, well. Oh, am I not going to be able to map because he's here? Maybe I can sneak away. Okay, dude. Dude. Did he just look at me? Hi! Hey, buddy! I know you have friends in there, and I don't want to go that way. Oh, is this a good spot for it? Oh, I blindly rated that good. Interesting that this would be a safe spot. I went in the door. Okay, I'm sorry, buddy. I have reason to believe you're actually going to stab me. Or poison me. That works too. I can't see anything. Oh, crud! Don't like that. Is everyone else just thinking chill? Well, then I'm sorry for stabbing you. Okay, nobody's mean. I can just leave. Okay, let's head back down to our nice little cozy spot. I'm sorry for stabbing you, dude, but you could clearly see me, and I don't think he was gonna let me just walk past. Ah, what a mess. How you doing? Yeah, probably. Indeed. You have arrows. I always gotta top off my arrows. Have a safe journey. I love the way they say that. Thinking wild. Oh, cool. I try to leave good messages. I praise a lot of stuff. Oh yeah, that one. I wasn't sure this one would get the idea across, but people seem to actually like it. don't remember that one at all, but I hope it was useful. I do remember that. Who rated that poor? Oh, whatever. 18 people liked it. It's supposed to just be a nice pause. Hidden path. Heads up, because people's comments were not helpful there. And the head Gale Tunnel, probably not the most important one. I like this one. It gets a lot of ratings, but also it's good. And this one, I mean, I just put the same comment that's thinking everyone else did, so I don't feel like I've really earned that 32. It is a handy tip, so I hope it helped whoever found it. But I'm sure there's a ton of comments there with the same message. I like the Cathedral of Dragon Communion, even though technically if you hang out in that one spot too long, a Dragon Knight will walk up and stab you. Mostly fine, though. Nice view if you ignore that. Suppose they couldn't remove it from the game. It's kind of a critical landmark. It's interesting the way they hand it. Oh, that weird blurry thing in the distance is... Okay, yeah, I was wondering. Cauldron. Okay, well, we've spent more than enough time in here gathering photos and then just having a little walk down memory lane. But again, I like the Howling tree, so that's the main reason I'm doing Malenia and Miquella. It's a nice... Okay, I did Malenia because cool character. Whatever. But Miquella, stinking nice area. Really like... Okay, we learned there weren't windows there. We got a decent idea of what the garb on us should be. The Wandering Merchant, not Merchant, the Wandering Noble who's got the horn and kind of a funny cap, but most of that won't be relevant. I don't know how any of them ended up this far. Or I guess they were probably not wandering. Probably a voluntary chill noble. Not to be confused with the chill Miss Noble or whatever it's called. That's just Miss Noble, isn't it? Well, in any case. I'm actually quite happy with how this one looks. We may tweak it a little in the future, but I really like what we get in there. However, let's try at least one. Let's try one of this angle. Let's try one opposite angle. I know that's the horizon line and not literally the angle of the bed, but it's also like gotta kind of parallel with the angle of the bed a little. I guess it doesn't have to. You could have a low horizon line and a low bed. Keep saying bed, altar to be sacrificed on. There is a notable difference. Honestly, if we're doing a portrait, let's do a vertical one. I know we'd had some stuff in here, but I'm just going to clear it out. Figured we wouldn't use all these spaces. One more with the slanted horizon line to line up with the table. Okay, we got this. Got presumably our hand on it, on the edge. Maybe bracing, but not necessarily anything beyond that. And we can even like have as little of ourselves in here as possible. We got Miquella, who would be able to easily even rule of thirds if we wanted to. Gotta remember, mostly obscured. Make the body bigger. Our main piece here. Okay. Unrealistic proportion, or unrealistic expectations for Miquella. Sorry, Miquella. Let's try flipping the pose. Sort of get it highlighted over there. Maybe we make it less of a focal point, perhaps. You'd have to really fisheye this to an extent, which is okay. Like those grand columns over there. we wanted a window higher up that was more steep. Be doing our big, like, and we have our light sort of coming onto Miquella from there, from behind, of course. It align maybe too well with the hair, honestly. Too broad of shoulders in this little placeholder, but you know, it's a placeholder, so yeah. I'm gonna assume the alloyed crown. Well, you kind of. I guess I should assume not. Well, he had it as a. Well, he was always a kid though. Did they have it in the statue where it was Godwin? I'm looking this up. It's an important thing to know whether or not Miquella should have the crown here. Miquella Godwin statue. And I mean, I'm taking a lot of stuff as fact that is not at all proven. Let's see. But that's sort of the way with these games, isn't it? This statue. Crown, yes or no? I mean, assuming that's Malenia. Isn't a given, but Malenia's got one, so it's likely Miquella would too. I mean, even he's got one. So yeah, even if that's not the unalloyed crown yet. Yeah. Let's see. There's a lot of interesting statues in Elden Ring that probably have a lot of significance that we don't know yet. Like that one in Farum Azula. I mean, stinking, holy cow. I mean, most people are busy dealing with Malekith and not photographing the statue, but once you've dealt with Malekith, I like the bigger figure. Bigger figure also implies that the body is smaller and is better as far as, I mean, it's a little high up in the scene, but it's also kind of sufficiently dominant. Will have the crown, will have the hair, will be backlit, and hopefully will not look like the stinking predator with terrible hair. I apologize for that. I'm going to go for 3/4 view. I think that's going to be A, easier and B, more interesting to draw, but also doesn't have to be crazy 3/4. It can be like, I don't know, 1/4 for lack of a better word. I think the pose also makes more sense. We can get the knights and such in the darkness. So let's think about the light and dark of this one. We're going to have light much more concentrated on Miquella, but it would also look kind of wrapped in there. We have the darkness over here. And even a little up here. Which would be lore-wise somewhat fitting, but I also want Miquella to look like the one in command of the situation. Just kidding. Actually, that's horizon line, but honestly, it should be the edge of the bed because we want Miquella to be right up next to it. I keep calling it a bed. It's not that. Pardon. It's fine to have the line. You can have like a little fabricy cover on it. Miquella obviously will be ominous. Slightly backlit from that side, less lit from this side. Ominous, well lit behind. I like the weird angles, and I think the background is potentially less distracting. But truthfully, it'd be longer anyway, so maybe it'd work and we'd still be able to get the eclipse above or some such. We could even have the window not centered on Miquella. That might get us a more interesting light situation. window up there. So we'll have some light back here plus the light here. We can have a kind of ominous eclipse-y sky without fully committing to the eclipse illusion. I mean, we've already got this up there. We could even have this more. I just don't want it to mirror the head. If it mirrors the head, it's going to look off. Having it at kind of this part-way point. That said, symbolically, it definitely ought to point more towards us than Miquella. I didn't weight this pose right at all either. No wonder stuff's looking wrong. And that's terrible too. Honestly, this lower one has better figure positioning. I do think that having the bed or the altar at a higher angle will be better. So let's try to get the best of both worlds here. Let me grab the figure from this one. That's going to darken everything for just a hot moment there. Do that. We can even try it in a horizontal composition, just to see. But I really don't. Let's do vertical first. Let's think it through in the way we've been thinking, and then we can adjust as needed. We want to try a horizontal one too. I'm down to experiment. We still got some time today. Let's get a much harsher angle on this. Except still with this. Okay, hold on. Harsher angle, even just only in this bottom corner. Then let's just move this whole lovely little cutout. I kind of like the rounded edge on that. What that does to the shading. I'm gonna have to remember that for a less harsh piece. I don't think there's really a reason off center it. I want this to be a powerful, imposing thing. We're gonna center Miquella. Imposing, and yet Miquella himself is still gonna be kind of not that imposing. Sort of the point. After all, everyone involved in this Castle Saul thing sure looked like they volunteered. Which getting people to voluntarily sacrifice for your harebrained scheme to bring your brother back from the dead, honestly, probably kind of a bad sign for Miquella's genuine, as opposed to mind control, but we'll see. Can do better arms than that. Holy cow, we've done better arms than that on this page. We'll figure out exactly what we want to do with that, but just getting in the right place. I like the idea of the part above Miquella being well lit. I kind of like the idea of a big old Gothic window behind. It's just kind of doing weird things to the overall layout. Here, rather than have that well defined, let's try something a little different with the window, despite the lag of the eraser. That still makes it look like it's really close. I like the idea of something sort of framing Miquella. Honestly, even then, it should still be more flat-bottomed than that. Yeah, it should go to the same vanishing point, but not as extremely. kind of do a ominous Gothic rose window, or we could just get the eclipse itself back there. I'm trying to think what the view out of that would be, but I think it would just be like above the castle gates even. Might have the turtle out there. We'd have to think about it, but that would not be major focal point for sure, for sure. And in any case, we want... Okay, I kind of like that with the sickle pointing, like drawing the line to the hand. Okay, that's interesting. That's good. But we want the focal angle. We want the direction of lines in the background to get us to our focal point, which is Miquella, specifically Miquella wielding this Shotel. So I think having this counter line not necessarily helpful. But what would be? There's always Nile. We can always try to use Nile as a background element. But I still want... The problem is having Nile loom behind Miquella, kind of... Because Miquella is child, it looks like Nile's calling the shots, and I don't want to imply that. Assuming that's all dark. Well, except hair. Hair becomes our sort of defining outline. And we can use the hair... Whoops. We can use the stray hairs as another guide. To help guide the eye where we want it to go with this sickle. Or shotel. Dagnabbit, sorry. Want amount of dark back there as a framing element. I think we can kind of have moderate dark. We can adjust exactly how dark the background needs to be to contrast well. I don't know if we want Miquella to be hyper dark, as so much so as to have high contrast and draw attention. Actually, after saying that, yeah, I think we do. Super ominous dark. We can have dark background as long as it's aligning towards Miquella. We have in this earlier composition, I think we were actually the eclipse is low in the sky. It could actually be casting something of an upward light. I'm gonna get a bigger eraser and really have a go cleaning up some of these vectors. See if this is horribly laggy or okay, yeah, it's pretty bad. Gonna have to get that sorted out at some point. Ooh, that was the worst one because I didn't actually clear out all of the lines. Okay, assuming darker Miquella. With hair getting us to our focal point. Actually, the focal point is really here even. It's not this edge. So we want something that will help us point down. If the window's high up. That's one option because we have the light. We have sort of rays of light. Which in an eclipse do end up with some interesting scattered light shadow patterns, especially partial eclipses. And we can use that to sort of frame this. On the flip side, if we do have the bigger window, don't like it cutting across. Oh, that's something we could really accentuate it if we did like there and then had its angle also pointing. I don't think that fits the proportions at all of what the room would be though. I'm somewhat constrained by that, because if the room makes no sense, it will be distracting. But if we were to have the big window somewhere behind, with the eclipse low in the sky, taking some liberties with the view outside, then we could get light sort of going up, which still doesn't really work for where Miquella is. So what are our shapes? Let's break this down into shapes. May hold off on the horizontal one. I mean, look, it's worth a shot. We've got like Miquella shape here. Miquella ominous, Miquella hair brighter. Everything around that moderately ominous. The Shotel is still kind of blending in the background. That's okay. But as long as it's defined against whatever it's near, so we could have a sharp point and then a well-reflected base. Dark point, rather. Then if we've got hand, I think it'd be better with bright hand and dark altar, as opposed to the alternative. It makes some amount of sense for light to be hitting it. If we're in literally in Miquella's shadow, which we should totally be in Miquella's shadow. Ah, that's an idea. Moderately dark, extremely dark, except for hand. And then extremely dark within the shadow, which has edges that are also helping get this, like, support this focal point. Miquella's shadow. Cool. I like that. Heck, we could, if we really wanted to lean into the symbolism, we could even have the Shotel's shadow, like, on the hand. Whoops, that is not the right brush. And that would involve a higher up window, which would be a good light angle, I think. It would give us shadowy eyes and such for Miquella. Okay. Combining all of this together, we have our table, which honestly doesn't even necessarily need to expand the entirety of the bottom. We can give, I don't know, maybe an unstable base. Maybe it would just work. In any case. Hand. Some amount of armage. The hand works so much better down here and further over. Got it. Hand. Miquella, and again, all we really want is just this upper section. I can just zoom out and replicate it without going back and forth like 6 times. You have a strong edge there. That's fine. I don't have to commit to it being on this side, but I kind of want to. A lot of work on the actual angle of the Shotel, of course. Got the hair. We could get window up high with eclipse perhaps partially visible, but Shotel's shadow and Miquella's shadow specifically landing on this. With the shadow pointing towards the action. Let me do that. The edge. Of course, Miquella, I think, the darkest. Then all of this as a moderate gray so as to not be horribly distracting. We could have some of the other figures in the background, of course, and even a moderate gray there, but pretty intense. Okay. And I kind of... I kind of like this weirdly sassy pose. Like, sassy's not quite the right word for it. And heck, we could even tweak the shotel to be at a slightly different angle relative to the camera, which would also get us a slightly better shadow, or more interesting shadow, but it'd also be a little more, like, aimed at us. Anyway, we'll have to think about it a little bit, because obviously the physics here aren't quite lining up, but we can make it work. Let's see, like that one, like this one. Yeah, okay. So I think we've sort of refined our composition a little bit. We've got some of the symbolism and ideas we want in here. We figured out where the main elements should be. So yeah, I think that's going to be it for tonight, and thus this week. Next week, it may be in a different file if we end up going vertical, but I see some potential for that horizontal one too, actually. I worry that it would be overly distracting for most of the things that I could put in that big negative space. But on the other hand, Miquella's actual position, pretty good. Let's see. But I think we've got an overall kind of idea of what we're going for here. I like the idea of Miquella's shadow enveloping us. They sort of maybe on the nose, but fun symbolism. Give some interesting stuff to do there. Something to focus on. I like the angle because it gives a good, a dramatic lighting on a face, which is always fun, but it's also a good angle to actually do a face, which is something we need to practice, so it's something we want to have. We'll make sure Miquella gets the crown. I'll add the armband too. Crown. See, if it was in that position and it was on this arm, it's like here. Not that critical, but we'll include it. Next time, we'll start on our rough sketches, and we're basically getting to the point. We're not quite there, truthfully, but I'm sure we'll do some more tweaking and adjusting on this. We're basically to the point where our Malenia illustration started. So I know it stinks to be cheapers almost. It feels like 2 weeks, really, truthfully, like 1 week into this, and only this far, but it's worth it because this is the skill, one of the skills that is on the learning to-do list. And getting better composition and poses and such, I think is going to be fun. Okay, let's see. Best pose. Best comp and height. Leaving some notes. And I'm sure I'll do some tweaks in order to get a thumbnail for this, in which we might figure out a few more things, but that won't be on stream, because I think that it's about time to call it for tonight, don't y'all? We'll be wrapping it up here, and I will see y'all on Monday. I'm not committing to anything this weekend. We're proper recouping this weekend. Wow, I just realized that the one topic I'd actually prepared something of a off-topic rant for we didn't even get to, partly because we took that hour-long Elden Ring tour. I mean, I can literally just spend an hour in that game just looking at things. I love it. It's got its, don't get me wrong, it's got its flaws. I ain't a blind admirer of it. But it's a really gorgeous world. In any case, we'll just say the distaste for Vancian magic, as I finally learned a name for it from TV tropes. And I know that's going to be an unpopular opinion, so I hope that we've got some people on to argue with me. Or we'll get them in the comments at some point. But we'll save that for next time. Until then, I hope y'all are all well. Take care of yourselves and have a good one.